Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Stocks with Surfing. So today I wanted to pop on and make a video about one of the companies in my portfolio, and that company would be Constellation Software. As you can see, my all-time returns are currently negative 15, almost 16%. And you see, this is a company that is down 3% today. It's down 13% in the past week. And if you look at the 1 year, it's actually down negative 35%. Now, let's take a look at this company because I want to reanalyze the fundamentals and see if maybe I made a mistake when I chose to invest in it. But first, for those of you that don't know, Constellation Software is a global technology conglomerate that specializes in acquiring, managing, and building hundreds of niche vertical market software companies. Unlike traditional software firms, it operates through a highly decentralized model where its many subsidiaries provide mission-critical solutions tailored to specific industries ranging from transit and healthcare to agriculture and business. Its core strategy relies on disciplined, buy and hold forever approach, reinvesting its consistent free cash flow into new acquisitions to drive long-term compounding growth. And as you can see, they have been extremely successful at that. Back in this May 30th, June of 2025, this company was seen as an absolute powerhouse. They had all this free cash flow coming in from software vertical markets that they acquired, and they were using it to acquire more, growing revenue extremely quickly. And well, they still are growing revenue extremely quickly, but we'll talk about that in a second. The reason why this stock has gone through such an intense sell-off recently has to do with AI fears that surround Constellation Software. It centers on the idea that generative AI lowers the barrier to entry and potentially allowing competitors to cheaply replicate niche software and erode the company's moat. They basically believe that companies that are currently paying a subscription fee to Constellation Software to use their software will simply go and use Claude or whatever it's called and vibe code a software that will replace Constellation software. Now, I'm here to tell you, I personally don't believe in that as a narrative. I think code is deeply complex and it needs to be debugged and maintained in a way that AI simply cannot do that yet. Could it happen down the road? Potentially. But yes, bears will argue that if AI enables customers to build their own custom industry-specific tools at a fraction of the cost, the high switching costs that protect Constellation's business may eventually vanish. However, the company maintains that its true defensibility lies in property data, deeply integrated workflows, and personal customer relationships that generic AI models cannot easily replicate. But with that being said, let's take a look at the fundamentals of Constellation Software and, let's see if any of the AI fear is affecting the revenue growth or their margins. All right, guys, so as you can see on the chart on your screen, I have a chart here that is Q3 2025 results as well as year-over-year change. So the year-over-year change is obviously just how much Q3 2025 has improved versus Q3 2024. Now, as you can see, revenue growth is not a concern over the past year. At 16%, that is definitely an S-tier revenue growth. Net income is up 28%, which is absolutely incredible. And GAAP, for generally accepted accounting practices, revenue is up 28%, and cash flow from operations is at a strong 33%, and free cash flow up 46%, which is absolutely insane. Now, if you're interested in buying this company, definitely do some more of your own research. Go to their website, go to their investor relations, look through the presentations and the financials for yourself. Remember, nothing you hear is financial advice. Now, if you guys remember from the video where I announced I purchased Constellation Software, I wrote out a bull case and a bear case. And I said, if the company ever starts to go down one of the paths of the bear case, that is a time that I will sell a company. If it doesn't go down the bear case, then I will not sell one of my companies no matter how much it is down. But first, let's look at my bull cases for Constellation Software and see if they're still intact. Like it's a thing that could happen. So VMS, being vertical market software, VMS products have incredibly high customer switching costs. It is simply too difficult and expensive for a municipal government or a small business to switch core operational software. This creates deep, durable moats around the business units. And cash flow focus. CSU targets companies that are stable and generate predictable cash flow. This low risk, high margin revenue model provides the massive recurring capital required to fund the next wave of acquisitions without relying heavily on equity insurance or debt. This virtuous cycle ensures perpetual growth fueled by internal generated capital. Now, the engine, the scalable vertical market software acquisition strategy, I think this is still intact. As you see from the fundamentals, there's no sign that this has broken or that it's less effective. Now, strategic AI adoption to deepen the moat. Now, this is where I basically argue that Constellation Software could strategically use AI and machine learning in their existing platforms to automate complex customer workflows and provide predictive maintenance scheduling and enhanced data analytics features. This increases the value proposition for the client, justifying higher subscription rates and expanding average revenue per user. And once again, that could be a big boost to margins. So in strategic AI adoption, the second point is reinforcing switching costs. Integrating these advanced AI features into existing mission-critical software further elevates customer switching costs. The VMS moat gets deeper because the software moves from being a simple operating tool to a crucial strategic partner for the client, virtually guaranteeing the longevity of their predictable high-margin revenue stream. I also, once again, think this is a bear case that is definitely still in play. And don't forget, guys, each of Constellation Softwares have their own development teams of 100, 200 people usually on them. So there's people working on these softwares that can do this stuff. And, they don't want to lose their job, so they're going to find a way to enhance it with AI because that's simply just the way the market is going. Next is culture and capital allocation discipline. The uniquely highly decentralized culture is the secret sauce that allows the acquisition engine to run at scale without breaking down, ensuring efficient long-term capital deployment. So, decentralized autonomy. CSU avoids the common mistake of corporate centralization. Acquiring companies are allowed to maintain their cultural identity and operational autonomy. That's what I was talking about with the AI. They don't want to lose their jobs. They're going to find a way to innovate and provide more service to their customers, and in return, they might be able to get higher fees. This preserves the entrepreneurial spirit of the acquired teams and allows local managers to remain focused on servicing their specific niche markets effectively. Next is the Mark Leonard effect. Now, Mark Leonard did retire, and he was a key person risk with this company. So that definitely is a reason that the stock price can go down, and I think it's fair. But should the stock price go down 40%? If you look at the new CEO of Constellation Software, Mark Miller, this is a guy that has been in the company for 30 years and learned under Mark Leonard, as well as he's a little bit more transparent in earnings calls, so I think it gives you an even better grasp on what's going on. Mind you, the earnings calls have been a little bit kind of weird because he's not really talking in guarantees. He's talking that the future is very uncertain for Constellation Software, but I think that's just a fair thing you kind of have to do. I don't think he can go out there and be like, the future's bright. We're going to return to former glory, because frankly, I don't think they've lost any glory. Now let's look at my bear case and see if I see any potential red flags. So the limits of scale and pressure on return on invested capital. Now, this is basically saying that it's going to be difficult for Constellation Software to grow because if they go out and make an acquisition, it's not going to be as big a bump to the revenue as it would have been when they were a smaller company. And now they generate billions in free cash flow. How do they find ways to allocate all of this capital into making even more money? As well as its potentially valuation vulnerability. Now, I'm here to tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, Constellation Software is no longer overvalued. There is no value risk, in my opinion, with this company right now. I don't see the multiple as being an issue. I don't see that as a problem. And when it comes to acquisitions, since this company is undervalued, I don't think they need to make the same level of acquisitions. But that's kind of a cop-out answer. The real answer I would give you to that is the run-up in tech recently means that CSU or Constellation Software would have had to overpay for any kind of acquisition they were going to do just because tech is valued so richly. As you see, if the economy starts to drop and the AI bubble pops, I expect Constellation Software to be out there bargain hunting, so they can get even more companies for their money. That being said, I don't really believe that there's not a lot of companies they can go and acquire. They have multiple spin-offs that are focused on Europe, etc. So why can't Constellation step up and find some more companies in North America? Our next risk is succession risk and cultural dilution. That basically most has to do with Mark Leonard stepping down. And to be honest with you, this is potentially a problem. But I think it's way too early to tell. It's only been a couple months. I think we need to wait at least a year or half a year to really see what's going to happen with this. Listen to a few earnings calls and really get a feel for Mark Miller and see if he's creating more of a cultural of fragility than one that is really good at building. And that's something that I'm definitely going to keep an eye on. Next is AI disruption and erosion of the VMS model. Now, despite my disbelief in sort of the theory of AI disruption, I do think that it is a potential problem down the road as AI gets even better and better. But for right now, I find it really hard to believe that AI can go and update all these things and, maintain the code for thousands of VMS products, especially when they have teams that could turn this into a bull case. I think this one could go either way in the long term, but I'm going to put my money on the fact that I think that the teams are going to find ways to use AI to enable the software and not let someone from another company go and vibe code an alternative. Remember, there's also switching costs. But now I want to look at two other service as a software companies, and we're going to take a look at their stock chart because they're suffering very similar fates. The first one is Adobe, and as you can see over the 1 year, this thing's down 30%. A definitive fall from grace if you look at the 10-year. It was doing pretty good in 2024. Now, this is a company that has a wonderful valuation. If you look at it, it looks like you're getting a great deal. As you can see, what's the PE ratio now? It's sitting at 18.2, which is incredible for tech, especially a software as a service model. I think Adobe is far more likely to be disrupted by AI than Constellation because Constellation has a bunch of different kinds of software in there. Adobe is specifically the creative field. Someone just has to create a really great creative product, and there's threats to them already. There's stuff like Figma, Canva, that are public companies, and I think that Adobe has a real risk to being disrupted, especially with sort of their older business model in a very modern industry. Now, the next one I want to look at is Salesforce. Now, Salesforce creates sales agents, and, they embrace AI already, something that, I'm saying Constellation Software should do. Now, if you look at the 5-year, this thing has had a pretty rough 5 years, specifically because of the past year. This thing is down 28%. It is really feeling the pain. 1 month, down 11%, almost as brutal as Constellation Software. Now, this is a company that honestly I don't know a lot about, but this kind of demonstrates that these service as software companies are really struggling right now. And eventually, when this cloud that's over them kind of gets some clarity, potentially when the bubble crashes, the AI bubble pops, you might see some of these former business models as really sought after companies to own again. But I think Constellation Software is honestly the absolute best one that you can own going forward. I think the valuation is great. So that's why today I'm going to buy more of Constellation Software and bet on the future of this company. Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to stay up to date with my public portfolio, hey, hit that subscribe button. And hey, if you think I'm wrong, tell me, yo. I'm down. We can talk about it. We can debate it. And you know what? You might even change my mind. So what? I'll see you guys later. Peace.